Cheerio, and welcome into TexAgs Rewind, presented by T-Mobile. T-Mobile wants to remind you to visit T-Mobile.com/across America to learn more about how you can get value and coverage with T-Mobile. And we brought you a lot of value and coverage when it comes to Texas A&M here on a Tuesday. We started off with some MVP awards, or defensive awards, I should say, including the MVP and the most improved and whatnot. We had a lot of good stuff to break down there on the early segments there with OB in the Go Hour. We had Charean Williams also on there talking about Aggies in the NFL. Logan Lee, SEC basketball is starting here for A&M Hoops. They'll be in Athens later on tonight. We kind of gave you a preview of that game. There's no kinda, we did it. And we also had Tom Hart on the show. What a wild bowl season it has been. OB, who is your breakout defensive player of the year?
Well, I don't know how it can't be Tyreek Chappelle, right? A guy that was third string and got forced into the starting lineup, and he had some ups and downs, like good, very good, experienced cornerbacks will. But I think he continually got better and became a very, very strong cornerback. So in my mind, if you're looking for a breakout guy, it was Tyreek Chappelle.
I went a different angle. I went with Antonio Johnson. And not that he was a breakout.
Okay.
But because this guy could have been the defensive player or MVP of this team with how the impact he had. I'm not saying he's my defensive MVP, but he was so impactful all season long. To me, he moved up several charts. So did Chappelle, by the way. And we're going to get to Chappelle here with my awards in a moment. But as good as Antonio Johnson was this year, it's like he was a breakout star, I think, nationally now.
Yeah, I think you can make that argument. I thought he was good last year, but had he really broken out? I don't know. Maybe not. But you could if you said no, that he was just good, but he wasn't quote broke out, then I wouldn't argue with that.
And to me, it's just because I think he made a name for himself. People were talking about him. Defensive Freshman of the Year.
Well,
you can go twice in a row.
Well, Chappelle comes to mind. I'm trying to think if there, if there was anybody else that I would really strongly consider there, and I guess not. I think
he had to grow up quick, right?
He did.
Had to grow up when Miles Jones went down, and he was somebody that in the very beginning you could tell that offensive coordinators were trying to pick on, and they stopped picking on him after a while.
Yeah. In fact, it seemed like they threw more at Jalen Jones.
Yeah.
Down the stretch. I don't know if there's another guy that could even fit in that category.
41 tackles, 9 pass breakups. He had a pick. He was awesome. Playmaker Award. Who was the guy who just made plays? Again, there's several people who can be the answer for this, but we're just having a talk show discussion here.
The first name that comes to mind is Leon O'Neal. I've always thought he's a playmaker. I think about the fumble recovery against Alabama. I think about the interception against Kent State for a touchdown. He just seemed to make plays. He always does. So, right off the top of my head, of course, Antonio Johnson's there. He had an interception against Missouri, and was Antonio with the big hit against Prairie View on the sack that Clemens turned into a touchdown? And then, so this is hard because then I could say, was there a bigger interception all year than Damani Richardson in the end zone against Alabama?
No. Goodness, what a pick. Yeah, you can go that. You can absolutely go that. And
then you can look at all the sacks by whoever this or whoever that. And I'll stick with Leon.
Yeah, I went Michael Clemens.
Okay.
And the reason for Michael Clemens to me here was just like his sacks, I felt them in the press box. The sacks at the LSU game, which unfortunately ended the way it did, that little series, just boom, boom, it was all about him. One more would have been great. But that being said, he had 32 tackles, 11 tackles for loss, 7 sacks. He was just a big hitter in the backfield.
You could almost say Tyree Johnson then.
You can say Tyree Johnson
as well. His numbers are about the same.
Yeah.
And then there's that Leal guy.
He's not bad. No. Pretty good. He's going to show up on my awards here. Hey, let's get into the top Aggies in the NFL here with the 17th game coming up this weekend.
Yeah, 17th game, week 18, and then we'll start into the postseason. Number 3, we're going to go with Dan Moore from last night. He blocked Myles Garrett, and we all know that Myles has the groin injury, so Myles wasn't himself, but he ended up with 1 tackle and 2 quarterback hits, and that was pretty much it. As you saw, T.J. Watt probably win Defensive Player of the Year award. Unfortunate for Myles, he played through this groin injury and just hasn't been the same. It's still sitting on 15 sacks, and T.J. Watt may set the record. So I think T.J. Watt probably gets Defensive Player of the Year. Number 2, we're going to go with Ryan Tannehill, 34-3 win over his former team, the Miami Dolphins. He was 13-18, 120 yards, 2 touchdowns. Guess what? Titans are the number 1 seed in the AFC right now. Just have to beat the mighty Texans, which they couldn't do the first time they played them, but if they beat the Texans, they're the number 1 seed. They'll have a week off. They'll probably get Derrick Henry back. All things are rolling for the Titans. I don't rule them out being the Super Bowl team. Ryan Tannehill starting in the Super Bowl would be a lot of fun for Aggies, I think. And number 1, Von Miller. Best game as a Ram, 5 tackles, 2 sacks, 3 quarterback hits, 3 tackles for loss. A 2019 victory over the Ravens. He was a big part of that because he sacked Tyler Huntley with 19 seconds left to really end the Ravens' comeback hope. So outstanding game by Von, another team that just can't look past to perhaps represent the NFC in the Super Bowl. It'd be kind of fun to have Von going against Ryan Tannehill.
Charean, thank you so much. We'll talk to you next week as the playoffs get started. Logan, what can you tell me about Georgia other than they're not very good?
They aren't very good. They are 5-8 right now in their non-conference slate. Their best win is over Memphis, which is a good basketball team. They have a lot of talent. So obviously Georgia can play well and play with talented squads. But they've also lost to the likes of Wofford and East Tennessee State. They just had a 17-point loss to Gardner-Webb. So they're very up and down. I think they have some decent talent, but they're heavy at the top end. You know, they have 4 guys who have started every game that they've played in. So when I say every game they played in, each individual player has played in. They haven't all played in all 13 games. But every time those 4 guys have played in the game, they've started, and they're averaging over 26 minutes. Those 4 guys, 3 of them are the leading scorers and leading rebounders. The 4th one, who is actually averaging the most minutes, over 30 minutes a game, is their lead guy, who has 80-something assists this year to less than 40 turnovers. So those 4 guys are dominating the minutes, they're dominating the points and the rebounds. The good news is they're also dominating the team's turnovers. Of the 4, only that point guard, trying to think of his name, Aaron Cook, transfer from Gonzaga. He's the only one with a positive assist-to-turnover ratio. The other 3 have more turnovers than they have assists. So that's their Jekyll and Hyde. They live and die with these 4 guys who score the most points and get the most rebounds, but also dominate the time of possession with the ball in their hands and turnovers. Braylon Bridges, 6'11", 240 pounds. He is a redshirt senior. He is the team's leading scorer, second leading rebounder.
I've listened to several broadcasters talk about, going to these bowl games and with the opt-outs, and they're still having a great time, and they're seeing still the same passion that they expect to see regardless of the opt-outs. But to just give me your assessment of how opt-outs have changed this bowl season and throughout the last few years.
Yeah, you can look at it a couple different ways. Let's start with the positive. So I just came from the Rose Bowl, and Ohio State had 4 stars opt out. Now, I personally think that 3 of those guys could have gained a lot by playing, because there's only, there'll be 30 first-round picks, right? But there's only like 15 or 16 that are guaranteed first-rounders. So to me, you have an opportunity to put a game on tape, go out there and do it. You're a late first-rounder. There's a lot to gain by playing in a bowl game. I still believe that. And the reason I believe that is because I think there are scouts who have their nose in it every day. They know exactly who everybody is. But sometimes they get overruled on draft day by a GM or an owner who is impacted by recency bias, by something that they saw during bowl season, something they saw at the combine, that maybe a guy was different in that moment than they had shown on tape for the previous 3 years of college, right? A great example, Utah has a kid, Britton Covey, 24 years old, kind of a Wes Welker type. Not every team's going to be interested in him, but he doesn't need every team, just a couple. And in the Rose Bowl, he has a 97-yard kickoff return. There's 14 million people watching that game, including every NFL GM and probably most NFL owners. And one of them might say, I don't care what he's done the last 4 years in college. I'm interested in that guy. And the other way to look at it is 2 of Ohio State's starting wide receivers opted out of the game. That left an opportunity for Jackson Smith and Jigba to have this Rose Bowl bowl record day. But it also opened the door for Marvin Harrison Jr., who's got the name but not the experience, who had 5 catches all year, and he left the Rose Bowl with 3 touchdowns. Well, that's huge for Marvin. So you have opportunities that open up for guys who haven't seen the field a ton because they're behind stars.
All right, that's going to do it for TexAgs Rewind on a Tuesday, presented by T-Mobile. We'd like for you to like it, comment on it, share it, and tell your friends about it. Call your aunts and uncles and tell them about it as well. It's TexAgs Rewind. We'll see you guys Wednesday.